So, bit of a mechanical one, this one. I'm going to do a travel adjust on a set of Manitou Mastodon Pro EXTs. These are 2019 forks. You can tell what year they are partly by the adjuster is very slim on these, on the 2019, but the big thing to look, or not the big thing, but the thing to look for is on the other side, on the cap, there's a little dot. I don't know if you can see that little dot. And that's 2019. It's got that little dot. This is the air preload cap, for whatever they call it. This is where you have the volume spacers. There's that little dot. But that is a bit of a giveaway. That top cap, that adjuster, it's flatter. The older one, which is what I've got, is, where is it? Lost my bike. Can you see that? That's the, oh, you can't see it. I'll have to, it doesn't matter anyway, but this is the fork I'm working on. So this is the EXT version. These are currently set at 120. You're on the back of the leg, if you've still got the stickers on it, it'll say what it is and what travel it's set on when it comes new. 120 EXT, you can see the little EXT mark there. EXT means they take a bigger tyre, so it'll run a 27 by 4.5 tyre. It just means the distance from the axle to the crown is 20 mil longer, if I remember rightly. So what that also means is you'll never ever get to the crown. When you bottom these out, you always have about 20 mil at the top, so you're not getting the whole stanchion, basically to stop the tyre hitting the crown. So EXT, if you want standard ones, you'll get all the travel. EXTs you don't. So you got about 120 mil there. Yeah, so I'm going to adjust these to 140. So I will show you what to do. I'll just have a bit of a clear up because I've been doing other stuff as well. Slipping wheels. Tidy up. And I'll just go through the tools you're going to need. Now there's a little kit that Manitou have, which is a grind down socket, which is a 24 mil grind down socket. A split cassette, it's basically like a cassette removal tool with a split down the side of it. Now you can actually get away without using this. I will show you, but if you buy the kit you get that with it. You also get a grind down socket, a very slim socket, which you do need. You really do need that. This is I think it's an 8 mil socket, ground down, but you need to slim it right down to fit into the lower leg, which I will show you, but it's easier to buy the kit. Get the kit, it's not very expensive, I'll put a link to it. You'll need some Allen keys, you will need a 8 mil for the other leg, you'll need some oil. What you need is some 540 synthetic oil, motor oil. I use Castrol Edge, doesn't matter really, as long as it's 540 synthetic. That's to lubricate the lower legs. Just need about 15 mil of that in each leg at the end. And then you also need, ideally, a syringe of some description to put the oil back in the legs. Now I use a couple of things. I've got some SRAM butter for lubricating the seals, but I also use Molykote 55 O-ring grease. This stuff's brilliant and it lasts and it stays slippery for a long time. I'll show you where I use that. You don't really need that. If you've got something like SRAM butter, you probably get away with it. But I just use that just because it's quite good for longevity and lubricating things like O-rings. I think that's everything. But like I say, I'll go through it again. I'm bound to have forgotten something. But as I do it, I'll show you the bits and bobs. Obviously you need some cloth. So these have already been cleaned and all the rest of it. That's about it, I think. Right, let's get on with it. There's one other thing that you should do, and that's you can go, I'll put a link to this, you can go onto the Manitou website and there will be a link to show you the amount of spacers you need and where to put them. It's a really good, simple website. It shows you on here, shows you all the different forks and tyre sizes and things like that. A little blown up display of the fork itself, and it shows you the spaces you need to put where for the amount of travel you want to use. That's the fork we're doing, and we're going to change this to 140, so we've got to change these spaces around. Basically I've got to move the top out spaces, take 2 out, and then leave the bottom out spaces where they are. So top out spaces are at the top end, and I'll show you anyway when I take it apart. Right, but yeah, really good. I'll put a link to that so you can find it, and then it's really, really handy to know that sort of thing, because they're very, very simple to do. They're a simple fork, quite easy to take apart as long as you've got the bits and bobs to do it. Now to mount your forks, it's probably best to have something like a stand, such as this. I sometimes use that, but I've also got a separate stand which I put in the vise. Just means I can put the forks next to the vise, so I mount that in there like so. Clamp it in the vise, and I can just put the forks in and work on them like that. Just simplifies things a bit. Right, so first thing you've got to do is take the air cap off the bottom of the left hand leg, which is the leg with the volume adjuster, the non-damper side. Take that cap off. Now these forks have got an item missing. Can you spot it yet? There should be a blue rebound adjuster knob here. Now the customer's lost it and we can't get one at the moment. I'm trying to get one to put back on, but I haven't adjusted the rebound. I've left it exactly as it was for the moment, so the forks are still rideable, but obviously we need to get that adjuster knob. I've found one in Europe, but crikey, what a job it is to get it. To let the air out, always use a track pump, or a fork pump I should say, so you can control the air being released. You don't want to fire it out, just stuff something in the end and let it all fire out. You could damage something, so you just let it out. And you can also record the pressure that you've got in the fork, so when you plump it back up, you know what to put back in. So this has got 70 psi in it, so we'll just let that out. Get as much out as you can. Just take that off. So there was something else. You're going to need a little socket of some sort just to put your little ground down socket on, and then you're going to undo the air side. Now what you got to remember is, I've done another video on this, everything is left hand thread, so opposite to the way you'd normally undo some stuff. So you're undoing it the way you would normally do up. So it does feel a bit weird to do that to start with, but so the way you would normally do it up is going to undo it. Something else to do is to angle your fork slightly back when you're doing this, because you're going to get oil coming out of the fork leg. Right, that's loose. And the other side is a 8mm Allen key. Same again, left hand thread, so the way you tighten it up is the way it undoes. Obviously normally you would have a blue rebound adjuster here, which you would take off first obviously, but in this case we haven't got one, so just undo that. It goes a few turns and then you'll see it, a bit of pressure, and you'll push it in. There, it's gone in. Now I'm going to have to drain this bit of oil. I've got not much oil in there, but get yourself a little tray. I'll just pop these out of here a minute and just drain that. But you can pull the legs off. Just pull your legs out gently. He says, oops, he says. Right, and then leave your lowers to drain in your tray. Right, put lowers back in, bit of cloth, just get that bit of oil off, stop it dripping everywhere. Now you're going to check your changing mounts on the GoPro. Excuse me. Things you have to do to film a video. It's quite hard when you're on your own to get the camera in the position that you want it, so you can actually show, because it's all right talking about, oh, do this, do that, but if you can't see what I'm doing. And obviously I've also got a mount. This camera I'm filming with has got a mouth mount, but then I can't talk. So, oh, hang on, I've got to go. Someone's trying to phone me. I have to use another camera for this, otherwise you're not going to see what I'm doing. So I'll just undo that. That's it. So here you've got, what you've got there is these pop off, these pucks. So now that's out, what you need to do, depending on your travel, if you consult the chart that I showed you, or the link to that thing, it will explain to you. So the more travel you have, the more spacers you put below the ring. So if you've got maximum travel, you put all of your spacers below, and as you're changing your travel, you just adjust these to suit. It's quite a simple system. Right, so that's that. What I'm going to do now is take the air shaft out. Now these are what they call the bottom out spacers. Now these stay at 3. I've just checked now because I was a little bit rusty on, haven't done these for a while. But the EXT version, the bottom out spacers stay at 3, because obviously they've got to cope with that's what gives you that extra 20mm from the top. So you leave those at 3, and what we are going to adjust is the other end. So I'm going to have to take the shaft out and just adjust what's on the other end of this. That adjusts your travel. So now you need your split cassette tool. This just goes over the shaft, goes up into the bottom of there's a nut there, which you undo. Now if you haven't got this, to be honest with you, you should get it, but if you haven't got one, you can take all these spacers off and slide a normal one over the top. Once you've taken all these off, it should slide on over the top. But it's far, to be honest with you, because you need the ground down socket, you're best buying the kit. So you put that on there, and then this just unscrews. Get yourself a suitable spanner. That just undoes. And once that's loose, that just pulls out gently, and you'll see how many spacers you've got on the other end. Right, so we have 2 spacers at the top, which indicates 2 spacers at the top on your Pro XT shows you at 120, which is what it should be. So what we've got to do is take those spacers off to get it to 140. Now what I'm waiting for an answer from the customer, because I've got mine set at 130, which means you just take one off and you have one on there, which you can adjust it to 130. It doesn't actually show you that you can do that, but you can do it because I've done it on my forks. He did say he wanted it to 150, so I'm going to take them both off and just check my messages before I put it back together. Yeah, he wants it at 140, so I'll just wipe this. It's got some grease on it, which we'll put back on. So this, you just take, same sort of thing, slide that down and take these 2 pucks off, which then that's your travel adjust. It's just simply that. That's it. Don't touch the bottom on EXTs. So you end up with quite a few of these, but don't lose them, because if you want to adjust the travel again. So then you just slide that back up and then put some grease around this and put it back in again. Very, very simple. So just put a bit of, this is where I use my Monocoat, because it's good for O-rings, and I just smear that round. Good O-ring grease. And then you just put that back in. And screw that back in again. So as you can see, it's a very simple process. These are the Pros, by the way, these forks, the Pro version. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. The comp, they're pretty similar, to be honest with you, the comps and the Pros inside. It's only damper really that's different. And if you can, try and use the right size spanner instead of an adjustable. I have got one somewhere, but because I don't actually do much of this now, this is a bit of a favour for somebody. Normally everything would go through the workshop at our shop, where you got all of the tools that you need. I mean, I have got enough stuff here to do it because I have tools for my own use, but I don't tend to do stuff now. This is just a bit of a favour for someone who's doing me a favour. So right, so I can put this back together again. So 3 at the bottom. Let's just double check on the guide, make sure I get it right. Pro 140, one spacer at the top, 3 below. So one above the white seal, the O-ring washer, and then 3 below. And again, it's a good idea just to put a little bit of grease on here. Just literally, I put it around the O-ring, the rubber O-ring. You don't really need it, but just helps things slide in, and then you don't nick anything. So you pop that back in the top of the air side. When you need your socket again. As you can see, it's a very simple process. We're not touching the damper side at all, no need to. That doesn't adjust travel at all. And unless you're servicing the damper, don't touch it, no need to. And on EXTs you don't change these. On a non-EXT you would change those depending on the travel, but with the EXT you don't. Put your lid back on your grease before you send it everywhere. Right, so you've got 2 spare pucks now. Now, important thing to do now is on the air side, where you have the piston or the end of the air shaft, is get something like a 3mm Allen key and just press that in, because this piston will stay wherever it stays. Right, you let any more air in. Now, press that pin in and pull the rod out to full extension, then let go, and that'll stay there now. Because whatever you pull this to, it will stay there. Which is another thing I'll tell you when we put air in the fork. I'll explain something. You need to just check that when you do it. So putting the legs back on. Something you need to do obviously is just check the seals. As you can see, these have got. I've just re-greased these seals, so I don't really need touching. I've literally just done it. So all I normally do is I usually use both the moly coat. I put a smear of this round, then I use SRAM butter, because there's a recess in a seal. You'll see inside here where the white is, there's a bit of a recess, which is where you put some grease and it sits there. And I just put a little smear around with your finger, and it just fills in that little recess, and then that keeps the leg slippery. Nothing better than some slippery legs. Now carefully, what I'll do now is, by the way, seals have got a spring round. This spring, I always take that off so you don't nick it. Slide it up the leg, out the way, right out the way. Take them both off, because if you happen to catch that while you're putting and damage it, that's it, it's knackered. So I always do this to save that happening. I've learnt that many years ago. I'm not sure if it's what you're supposed to do, but that's what I do. And then make sure your legs are the right way up. Check which way your forks are. These forks are front up, so it's reverse arch, don't forget, because in the past I have done that. I put them on backwards. I had to take them all off again. So make sure you get them lined up properly. Don't catch any seals. The rubber seal, just gently slide them on, and they should just go on just enough. Don't want to put them right in, because you've got to put the oil in yet. Now the next thing to do is to tip the forks back enough. If you've got this in the bike or however you've got it, just tip up your fork so any oil will run in when you tip it, when you put it in, I mean. And then it's time to get your oil. As I say, it's best to have a syringe, any sort of syringe really. I've got one I bought that's for tubeless. I've got a couple of these. These are really good for putting tubeless sealant in, but they're good for anything really. High volume. So you want 15 ml of oil. Which you then squirt into each leg. As I say, this is fully synthetic oil. It's not fork oil. This is, well, not bike fork oil, if you know what I mean. This is actual Castrol edge. 540 fully synthetic oil. Great stuff. Nice and slippery. Let's make sure I've got the right amount. If you don't get it spot on, this is just literally a lube. So it doesn't really do anything other than lubricate. So if you put 10 in or 20 in, it doesn't really matter. But I tend to put 15 mil in, no matter what. Most forks have about 15 mil of lube in. Right, that's done. Next thing is to slide the fork gently down the lowers, and you'll see the air shaft will pop up. Don't push it, just go until it stops. Then you want your ground down, hopefully you saw that, ground down socket. Again, excuse me a second, just adjust you. And then you're going to do it the way you undo now. So let's do that. And you just put some pressure on the fork very, very gently. Because you've got air pressure in that, there is air trapped in there because you've released the, you know, I was saying about the pin, push the pin in to pull the air shaft out. Once you've released it, that air in there's trapped. So you can put a bit of pressure on it and turn it anti-clockwise, pushing, and you can feel, yeah, that's it. And just nip that up, don't go mad, just nip it up. Same on the other side. Now this time you're going to have to put some pressure on until you see the shaft touch. As I say, once you get it touching, as you spin it, it'll start to engage. That's it. That'll screw out, and again, anti-clockwise. Just do it. Just nip it up. Don't go crazy. That's it. So that's it, back together. Just wipe off any surplus. Now you will have a bit of surplus also. Wipe off the surplus. You'll also have a bit of, obviously you've put some oil or some grease around the seal, so you'll get a bit of wetness here. Just wipe that off. Once you've serviced a set of forks, you may see that little ring appear more often, just because you've got a bit of surplus grease, but that's nothing to worry about. Just wipe it off now and again. Don't leave it and let grit go into it too much. And then you put these back on in a second, I'll show you. Right, so that's back together. Right, just put some air, put the air back in. So I put my 70 psi back in. Now you'll probably have to fine adjust these because you've changed the travel, so the pressure may be slightly different. But you do that with your sag. If you know how to set sag. Right, that's it. So we'll probably have to do this again once they're on the floor, or in the bike actually is probably the best way to do it. Right, pop your air cover back on so you don't lose it. As I mentioned, you would put the blue adjuster knob back on now. The blue adjuster knob's got a tiny little screw to hold it on. That's the only thing I really can't show you that bit, but it just screws into the end of that shaft, the damper shaft. As I say, I'll not touch the damper shaft, so whatever it was set on, it'll still be on it. We're looking to get the. Actually, just make sure. Just need to tell you something before let's do that again. Hang on. Backtrack. Forgot to tell you something. When you do the air pressure, important this is. When your pump's on, get to the correct pressure that you want. Make sure before you take the pump off that the fork is fully extended, because wherever you take that off, if you push it right in and take this off, it'll stay there. So you pull it right out, take your pump off, and it'll stay there. So we now should have 160 mil, I think. Yeah, it's showing 160 because this is the XTs, so 140 plus 20. That's correct. Bingo. Right, all we got to do now is put the rings back on the seals, which is a little bit of a fiddle, and I will show you. Slide that back and gently guide that back on round the back. You'll feel it pop in. just make sure you don't scratch anything. Put it around with your fingers, and then a bit around the back. You can just, there you go. Slide that back on. Just something like an Allen key. I've got a pick, but something like an Allen key will just pop that back on. And you are ready to go. Done. Give it a bit of clean up, obviously. Let's pop that back on again. Give it a bit of a clean up. One other good thing to do in general with any bolt through axle, front or rear, is put some grease on it every so often. Stops it seizing in the hub, because very often we'll have bikes coming in our workshop and you can't get the axle because these where the bearings sit, they can seize up. If they're in there for a long time, the two different sorts of metal just bond themselves together and you can't get the axle out. So it's always really good practice. This is a rear axle. Just put some little bit of smear of grease on your axle every so often when you put your wheels in and out. Just a little tip. Right, that's it. Okay. Hope that was useful. Didn't have any intention of doing a travel adjust, but there we go. So all back together. I don't think I've forgotten anything. I'm pretty sure I haven't. It's just a matter of now tidying up and publishing this video. Hope that was useful. I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.